this is what we have for this evening. We are going to look at some VS Code extensions, and after that, we take questions and answer. I guess we are getting our questions ready. If you can see my screen, this is what we did, the basic HTML that we learned. And if I click on the extension, you see that I told us to install an extension called prettier that would allow our code to be properly formatted. And after installing the prettier, I told us how we can set it up so that it will be able to format our code whenever we save or whenever we copy and paste. So I'm just going to filter my extensions here so that I will quickly show on some of the extensions that I'm using and what they do, and I'll tell you the one that I think, even as a beginner, you need to have on your system, on your VS Code, that will help make your work much easier. Let me filter down the enabled. All right, so what you can see here are some of the extensions that I have running on my VS Code. And you have this color highlighter or color highlights, that is what it's called. And what this one does is whenever you type in any color, you will have that color preview. Let me show us how it works here. So on this list item, let me use an extension, an attribute. Let me put in a style attribute, and I'll just put in color. In the color, I'll put in blue. You will see that beside the color name, you have this small square. I need to zoom in. Let me zoom in. So beside the color name here, you can see that small square, blue. And most times as you progress, you start writing codes, color names with hexadecimal and other ways of writing in CSS and HTML. So what makes this tiny square to show is the extension that is called color highlights. So all you need to do is search for color highlight extension, install it and enable it, and that's all. Whenever you type in a color name, it's going to give you an idea or a sneak peek of what the color looks like. So if you got that, please let me see a thumbs up. And the next one, which I think is also very important, let me open this material UI. We have the material UI extension. I zoomed in my screen so that we can see it very well. That's why the whole thing is looking so big like that. So what this material UI does is this. Let me show us quickly. It helps you so that whenever you create your, your files, if you look at this, my HTML file, you can see an icon of 5. If I create CSS file, you will see this icon of 3. And if you create JavaScript file, you will see, so it helps you to attach the corresponding logos to the files that you are creating. That is very important as well. So instead of just bringing up a random, instead of bringing up a random icons, you should have an icon that represents the file. If you create a folder, let me just give it any name. If I create a folder, you are seeing this folder icon there. It is very, very important also. So it helps you, once you look at your repository or the files you have inside your code base, you already know which file is containing which code, even without checking the extensions. That is the second one. You can go ahead and install and activate. Then another one attached to that is this Vscode icons. These Vscode icons, I also have this one installed and activated. All right, so it also helps to set your icons and they are looking so nice. So if you want install the two, this is Vscode icons, you install it, you activate it. The other one is, where is it again? The other one is material icon theme, install it. And this one also affects the color of the background, like this black and white color stuff, dark mode and white mode, something like that. But once you install it, you will see the effect right there. Now, this, well, let me mention this one. One Monokai theme. This, if you look at my own, I don't know the color you are seeing right there. If you look at my VS Code, you see that it's like, it's not a white, it's not a light mode, it's not a dark mode, but it's something in between. The color is just somehow funny, but I like it, yeah. And as you can see, when you install this one Monokai theme and you enable it, you have the option of set color theme here. Once you click on it, you choose Monokai, and then you will see how it will just change the interface, the color of the interface, and then you are good to go. That's what this one is doing here. Apart from that, we have not started writing JavaScript. There are some other extensions for JavaScript, and okay. After this one Monokai theme, you have the highlight matching tag. This is also very, very important. If you have been writing a lot of code, you'll agree with me that sometimes you forget to input the closing tag of an element and you will not know. When you are running your code, you'll be seeing funny, funny things. But what this one does is, when you click, let me open this. So here we have this header element. If I click on it, you see that it will highlight the beginning, the open tag, and give me a highlight on the close tag. So I can already know where the close tag of the element I'm on is. The same thing, anywhere I click, you see that the corresponding close tag is highlighted. That is what this young man called highlight matching tag does. That's what it does. So if you install it and you enable it, you will see that if you click on any element, either the open or the close tag, the corresponding open or close tag will be highlighted. This is very important. Okay, I think please let me just also say, because it's like I'm forgetting, sorry for that if I did forget. I know many of us must have installed Live Server, but please, if you have not, you need to install it, Live Server, so that you have this Go Live button down here. All right, once you install the live server extension. Where is it again? Let me get the live server extension and show us how. Where is the live server? Okay. Sorry, let me search for it. Live server, but I'm sure that I have it enabled. Yes, we have this live server. If you have not installed it, like I said, a lot of us might have installed it already. It's very important. If you have not, please, amongst other extensions, do well to install this one and then enable it and make sure that if you are not seeing this go live, button here, you just have to close your VS Code, open it back, and you see this go live right under here. So our instructor have some other nice extensions, which me I don't have, but you can just make a little research on the extensions that you think you need. But as a beginner, we just need the basic extensions that will make our work easier, not necessarily making the whole thing fanciful. But if you want it to be fanciful, that's right. It's your taste. Just get the extensions you need and you are comfortable using that will help you enjoy this code, this learning process. That's just the objective. So that is it on that. If you have any what is it called? If you have any extension that you are using that I've not mentioned and you know it is good, please drop it in the chat section. Somebody will see it there. I myself, I will see it there and I will install it, and I would appreciate so much.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. My question is on the CSS extension link from an outside link, because I was going through the lessons and I was trying to try the other aspect of CSS linking with HTML, which is from the outside folder, not the one inside. So I created a folder for the CSS, and then when I tried to do it, it wasn't responding with my HTML when I went live to check it on the website. But when I tried doing the inside one, the one that you write in this HTML, it was responding. So I don't really know what I did wrong, because I checked the linking tag and everything seems to be okay. I don't know if somebody can help with that.
Okay, thank you. That's the question of Josephine, and let's put that together first before we take other questions. So I have to open my browser and then the VS Code. I would have to open the HTML here and the CSS. Okay, let's start with the HTML. We'll make this one smaller and then this bigger so that I can zoom in. Okay. So Justin, if I understand, you have tried to explore the 3 ways you can use CSS, but the last one, which is the external method, is not responding as you expected, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's look at that. Already, we all know that the 3 ways that we can use CSS in HTML or with HTML is either use the inline method or you use the internal method or you use the external method. And this inline method is another way of using something like this, an attribute, because internal method of CSS goes into the style attribute in the open tag of an HTML element, in which you specify the CSS property and the value. And that's what I just did here, and you can see it working on the screen where this home text is in blue color. And then the internal method is specified within a style element in the head section of the page or of your code, in the head section of your HTML code. For example, here I'm going to type in style, and then in between here I can decide to change anything on this page using CSS. All right, and just for a quick demonstration, here on this H2 text that is here, I'll change the color by calling the element's name, and then the color should just be red. And if I save it, this is here. So these two methods, the first and second method, is written on the same page where you have your HTML code. But then, if you want to use external CSS, which is a separation of concerns, you want your CSS to be separate, your HTML to be separate, then you need to make use of the link element within this head section. And before you go ahead using your link element, you need to create your CSS file. Like here, we already know how to do that, but just for the purpose of reminding us, you click this button and you type in styles.css. It can be any name, you already know, but the important thing is the extension should be .css. So we must have this file created, and you come over within this head element. Please, that's very important. Not in the body element. Not in the body element. Within the head element, you specify or you use your link elements. Let me put a comment here, and I'll just call it external CSS. So underneath the comments, I'll just put in a link, and if I type link and I click this link column CSS, you will see that it will generate just a complete link for me, and then I will include S because mine is styles.css. All right, like this, I have established a connection between this my file index.html and styles.css. All right, and just for further explanation, this rel that has a value of style sheet, it simply means that the relationship you want to link to the HTML is a style sheet, an external style sheet file, or an external resources that contain style sheets. That's what you want to link to your HTML. That's the relationship. And then the href carries the location where your file is, and you must ensure that the name corresponds to your CSS file name. So once this is done, I will now get rid of all this so that we'll go in that external one and then try it out. I'll get rid of both the internal and the inline. We'll save it. Now we have this. So I come to my styles.css right here. The first thing I did was to put in the H2 elements, and I just set the color to blue, and then I save. You see that it's working. All right, it is working already, because if you check my HTML, I don't have any CSS file here. I don't have any both internal and inline CSS. I don't have it. I see the H2 element here is already changed to blue because it is here. So if there is a mistake in this link section, all right, let me just mistakenly remove S from this style. You see that it's already messed up. Okay, so sometimes it could be just a minor fault that will make our code not to respond. If I put back the S to make sure the name is correct, then my code is working fine. So Josephine, I don't know if I've uh, attempted to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Well understood. I will attempt it again, and if any further questions, I will drop it on the WhatsApp link so that we can proceed.
Okay, so if you don't have any other question, thanks for asking that question, very important. And Samuel, sorry sir for keeping you waiting.
The question is in that video number 6, the man he went to a particular website resetting your CSS style sheets, and he copied it, he posted it in this thing. What's it called? I don't know, but he pasted it. He pasted another CSS and he pasted it in the, and he said it has only it always has effect in the work, whatever design website he is trying to do. So my question is it compulsory to add such CSS in our own work as well when we are doing our mini project?
Okay. Is there anybody else? Thank you, Samuel. I've heard what you said. Is there anybody else in the call who maybe have similar question or who understands what he's trying to say? Because I want to pull up the tutorial so that we can check from there.
For reset style sheet. And then inside Google here, we can go down to at least the second link inside my search here. I will leave a link in the description for this specific page here. And as you guys can see inside this page here called HTML5 Doctor, we have a person here called Richard Clark, and he did actually create a reset code. So what I can do here is I can actually go and copy the code he has and scroll all the way down to the bottom here. So I can actually say we want to copy till here, copy it, go inside my style sheet, go to the very top of the style sheet, and paste it in here. I'm gonna go ahead and save it. And then as you
I think this is where this is where the question is coming from, somewhere, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is where it is, sir. That's where it's coming from, sir.
All right. So he copied some style sheets and then he pasted it inside his code. And basically what he copied, it says for CSS reset or something. Yeah, search for CSS resets. And then he went to CSS Doctor website, he copied, and then he pasted. Let's put HTML5 Doctor. So this is where he copied this code from, and he pasted it inside. So basically there are things that we need to look at in this code. This is not, how do I call it? It's not a must. The code is not a must to have inside your project. All right. But what this person did here is he made some default code, like a global settings of a CSS code, and then hosted it here, and then anybody can come and copy it and make use of it. And it's very good also. That's why we are learning that when you look at all these lines of code, you should be able to say what this is going to do. I mean, if I use this code, you should know the expected outcome from the code instead of just copying and pasting because the instructor copied and pasted. And already, if you look at some of these CSS properties, you discover that there are just some basic setups, like making your list items to have no the nav items to have no style, setting line height, a global line height for the text. Here, block quotes and quote sections. There are so many things here that this person did, which we may not necessarily want to do. So I would advise, or I would recommend that you take this code, I try to dissect it yourself, you try to digest it and understand what is there. If time permits, we can do a little bit of that here, and then later on your own, you can make further research about it. But I want to state categorically clear here that this is not a CSS library, it is not a CSS framework. No. This is just a code that somebody wrote and kept here. And I guess this code was here since 2009, which means a very long time. A very, very long time. And why the man included it in his code is definitely because it is something within his own time, the time that he prepared his lessons. So I think that is what I can say about it right now, until we take time, or anybody takes time to, look into the codes to know actually what is going on. But I still repeat that it's good you don't copy and paste codes like this, especially when you don't know what that code can do, what is capable of doing, and what is not capable of doing. Okay, so Samuel, I think that's it. And this call is ending in 9 minutes time. So let me copy this code and put it inside our CSS. Let's see the reaction for now, because the 9 minutes will not finish immediately. I'll grab this and I'll go back to the CSS. So what I'll do here, I'll just I'll remove everything here and I'll paste the CSS. So we'll see what happens. That is the outcome. Pasting only the code. That is what happened to my page. So it removes every, how do I call it? Every default style, because in CSS, the browser has its own default styling, which I believe in the tutorial you will come across it, or as you progress you will come to know about it. That is why if you type in your HTML element without using any style sheet, you see some spacing, some gap and all of that. That is the browser default styling. So if I comment out this code, right, I don't think I can comment it out. Let me just cut it off from this. And I do something like, I put asterisks to highlight everything, and I put something margin. I put the margin to be 0, and then padding to be 0, and all what have you. Check of it for sizing should be for the body element. You see, only this few lines of code is almost achieving the results of what all those plenty lines of code is trying to do for us. Because for you to have a total control over the positioning of your elements in CSS, it is advisable that you get rid of the default styling, and then you know that if you add any padding or margin, it is exactly what you are adding by yourself. There is no addition to it. It helps to do the calculation very, very, very well. So without me adding that plenty lines of code, I have already created something that is close to what the man created with the code. But the thing here is the man included tables, included many HTML elements. That is why the code is very long. He included here the HR, which of course if I include HR with that global selector, I'll still have the same result. But I'm just trying to be careful so that I don't go and confuse more people. Look at plenty elements that the man selected here. But you can do this, you can replace all this. For you not to start writing them out one at a time, one. You can simply use this global selection, and then it represents every other thing that you can think about. Any element at all that you can think about. If you go to, just go on Google and search for global CSS selector. Okay, CSS universal selector. I was using the word global, sorry, my bad. So you see, so this universal selector select all elements of any type. All right, it also selects all elements inside another element, which means so far there has been a better approach. There has been a better approach to selecting all your elements without having to write them out one at a time. And that is an easier way of resetting your CSS. Now, to explain what the man meant by resetting CSS is you want to remove all the default styling, the browser styling, you want everything to just return back to square one. That is it. Instead of using that long code, if you use this, you achieve the same result. I think I'm repeating the same thing all over again. So, Mr. Samuel, I don't know if I have been able to answer your question.
Thank you very much, sir. You really answered me. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at this responsive design. Responsive design is a serious business in software development, in web development, or software development as you may prefer to call it. So one of the qualities of a good product, software product or websites is its ability to display properly on different screen sizes. Please let me recap a little bit. Samuel, are you there?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm here, sir. I'm here, sir.
Yeah. So concerning this code, I'll revert back to you later on. There are more things that I need to tell you about that. So, all right. So the instructor touched a few things. There are some key components in CSS for responsive design, which is the grid system, Sorry for that, guys. So which is the grid system and the flex box. And this grid system, I want us to just look at it very well. So inside this body, I'm going to create just a div, and inside this div, I'll have other divs. I'll make a copy of this, and I will call this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, oh, sorry. Okay, here we have these numbers showing on the screen. And I'll just give this one a class name of parents container, and these ones I'll give them similar class names, which is, I'll just call it, the class name should be child or children, as the case may be, child container. Okay. Now let's use these containers here, these boxes here, to practice this responsive design. And I would like at this point to reference this W3 school, because W3 school is a nice resource material. To be very honest, if you are learning HTML and CSS, they have some good, short snippets that can help a lot. And then if you navigate to CSS, where is that? CSS Flexbox. Let's start with this flex box, which is a flexible container. Okay, this is it. Now there are key properties that we need here in order to make our responsive design easier. If you want to go the other routes, it's very okay. It's very much okay. Trying to use your media query all through, even though if you're using flex container, you are going to still use your media queries, but it will minimize the number of media queries that you need. So let's look at this, the flex box component. It consists of the flex container, which is the parent container, and the flex items, which in our case here is the children container. Two of them are very important. And then, before you start using the flex box, you need to define the flex container. And the flex container will be defined by using the display property and the value of flex. Let's start making this thing to make sense. And I'll connect my style sheet here so that we'll have a clean platform to write our code. So I'll use the link, and then this will be styles.css. All right. So inside our CSS now, I'm going to call this the class name, which is the parent container. I'll add some colors so that we'll be able to, I'll add some colors for us to be able to identify the areas that we are working on. This one, I'll just add a background color of, I'll add blue. Blue will be very obvious. Okay, so this is the parent container. And then the children container or the child container, I'll equally add some background so that you see it. Don't mind all this automatic code that I have here. Let's take it small, small, small by small, small by small. Guys, are we seeing my screen? Are we following? Please, if you are following, just give a thumbs up. Let me be sure that I'm not misfiring. Chimdindu. Okay. Samuel and Chimdindu, I think they are responding in the affirmative. Okay, Levi and the rest. God bless you. All right. So here, the red color is the areas where our children container are, while the blue color is the parent container. Inside the parent container here, let me zoom in a little more. Good. Inside the parent container here, I've already activated this flexbox by calling the display property and passing the value of flex. Now let me do same for our children container. I'll put in the display and the value I'll pass in there is flex, and I'll save. So nothing has actually happened. Nothing has happened here so far because the display before it was vertical and now it is horizontal. If I comment out this, you will see that this is the normal display without the flex box being activated. This is the vertical, the default display of div elements. But once you activate the flex container on the parent you activate the flex box on the parent container, it is going to change the display of the children element already, because whatever you put on this parent container has in one way or the other effect on the children container. Sorry, whatever you put on the parent container has an effect on the children container. So at this point now, let us manipulate, or let us try to work around the children element so that they'll be big somehow, and then we'll see how they will look like. For that, let's give this children container, let's give them width of maybe 200 pixels, and I save. And also, let's give them a height of maybe the same 200 pixels, and then you see, okay, the height and width 200 pixels, that's okay. And you see that it is already covering the parent container, but there's nothing to worry about. We'll create a space for it not to cover it too much. I have this already, so let's get to that. I don't want all this code, all of them to come together, but it helps to, give me the design that I'm looking for. So if I turn this to full screen, see what happens. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can see the extra spaces there, which is showing us that there is a parent container inside. Why is it not stretching to the full width? I mean, we want to make it flexible, so any size of screen, it should adjust to cover everywhere. I mean, the children elements. Let's go back to this and see what is going on here. So, if we read down once again, and let's go to the next chapter, because we've gotten what we needed from this part. The next chapter now, we'll look at some other things we need to put into consideration. the CSS properties that is used for the flex container, we have the flex direction, the wrap, flow, justified content, align items, and align contents. And anytime that you use any of these properties, it will give you a result that is equivalent to what that property is supposed to do. So if we want the display to be horizontal, which is the default display of this flex container, the default display, anytime you declare or you activate a flex container, the display will be horizontal, natural. But then if the item is too much that it fills up the space, it will go down to the next line. And then if I come back to this here, HTML here, let me just make a copy of this. I'll copy paste and paste again like 2 more. So we have 4, we have here 5, 6, we have 7, and then I copy and paste again. That is going to be 8. So what is happening here? So instead of breaking, if I continue, it will continue to shrink. Why? Because the default display of this flex container is horizontal. Please, let's get that. Anytime you call this line of code, the display will be horizontal. Now, the flex direction, let's get something here. The flex direction here specifies the display direction of flex items in the container, and it have one of these values. Is either it is in a row, in a column, or row reverse or column reverse. What does that mean? Let's go back to our code. If I come over here, forget about all these plenty things here, please. Let's leave all of them out for now and then focus on the big things, what matters the most. Hello, Chimdi, are you the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Please, if what I'm explaining is complicated, you let me know, yeah? Maybe I'm not a good teacher.
No, you are doing very well. Thank you.
So, like I said now, we want to see how this, the properties or the value of the flex direction works by trying them out one at a time. Inside this flex, the parent container, I'm going to put flex direction, and I'll put column. Sorry, I'll just put column. You see that the column changes the horizontal display to vertical display. That is what the column does. If I put the column reverse, what will happen is that number 8 will come up to the first one and number 1 will go down. It will just put it in a reverse order. The same thing applicable when I put row is going to put it in a horizontal position. Row reverse will bring number 8, the last item, to become the first, while the first goes to the last position. It is as simple as that. So then it makes no sense to declare this display flex and you still use your flex direction to be row, because it will be like a redundant code. The flex already is horizontal, so declaring this is not really necessary. except you want to use row reverse to bring the last item to take the first position. Now, if I inspect this page, you will see that these boxes are already responsive. They are already responsive. Let us get a code to separate them. Yes, let's separate them so that we'll be able to see the boxes individually, separately. Here in this we have the width set, blah blah blah. I don't know why is my network misbehaving. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My network was misbehaving here, was not. My second device was reconnecting. That's why. I hope we understood this, the concept of column, the flex direction to be column and to be row. Column is vertical while row is horizontal. Now we have the flex wrap, which on the other hand decides whether the item should be wrapped or they should not be wrapped. We know what wrapping something means. So if there is not enough space for them on a straight line or single line, it should then break down to the next space under. Like in this case now, here we have 1 to 9. Now, if there is no additional space, it should break down to the next available line under. That is what wrap does.
Charlie,
And
wait, your screen is not displaying again.
hello, someone.
We can't see your screen again, sir. We can't see your screen again.
Oh, you can't see my screen again.
Yes, sir. I think it's
I
your
thought.
network today. Yes,
Is anybody see my screen?
yes, sir.
I
Yes,
am
I can
seeing
see your
it. I'm
screen.
seeing it. I think it should be his network. Refresh. Somewhere refresh.
Someone please refresh. Sorry for that. So here, let us add something here now. Now come here and we'll add the property for flex wrap is flex wrap, and you either decide whether it should be wrapped or no wrap or wrap reverse, whichever one. But then if I put here flex wrap and I put the value of wrap, this is how it will look like. You see what happened? Look at my screen. You see what happens here? That it has spread everything just to fit into the screen. Number one, number two, number three, four, five, six, seven, eight. As simple as that. So let's assume this is a picture gallery that all my pictures will be showing very well already without me struggling to arrange them very well or not to arrange them very well. This is what wrap does. But if I include no wrap, it will just remain the way it is. It will retain its default position. Now, if I put it to wrap reverse, just like flex direction, row reverse turns the thing upside down, the same way if I put wrap reverse, it will still be wrapped, but you see that the arrangement will be disorganized. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is how reverse does works. But what I want you guys to notice, Samuel, hello Samuel, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Are you seeing the screen now?
Yes, sir, I am. I can see it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So one thing we should understand is that when we use this wrap, the wrap then helps us to make sure that everything is displaying. None of the items is hiding. When there is no much room, it will just go to the next available space. That is very, very important. And here we have flex. Let me comment out some of these things so that we'll know which one is working and which one is not working. Very good. You see, the codes that I've added that is making it to work before, I added the flex box itself, flex direction to be row, and then flex wrap to be wrap. And you see here that some of them are hiding. Some of them are hiding. This one is not showing well. In fact, the first row is partially cut off. Why? Because you have to balance the equation. When you have set in the properties in the parent container, you need to come to the child container also to specify some stylings. Very, very important. You see, that's why I have to comment this out. So in the child container, I'll comment, let me uncomment them one at a time so that we'll see how they work. In the child container already, we have this flex direction to be column. Flex direction here is column, the one up is row. Is that really necessary? Well, I will take this out. Now, I'll bring justify contents to center, and you see that it has moved the contents of the containers or the div element to the center of each of the containers. And if I put text align center, you see that we have this. If I put this flex direction to colon, you see that there is no changes actually. So if it's more or less like we don't need this code. Why? Because the flex direction is already set to row in the parent container. So like this is how we arrived at what we have now. Okay. Back to this code that we have here, we have some other properties like, okay, this is the wrap, exactly what I explained. So when it is wrapped, you see that instead of hiding, it breaks into multiple lines to make sure that everything is showing. Wrap reverse turns it the opposite direction. Now, we have another one which is called the flex flow. Flex flow here is a shorthand property, it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of flex direction and flex wrap properties in one. And in this case, now here we have flex direction and flex properties. So if I want to use the flex flow property, it means that I have to, let me just put it here, flex flow. We have the flex flow property here. I'll first of all comment this one and this one out. Let's see the effect of flex flow. Okay, flex flow, you first put in the value of your flex direction. So I have to put in here row and I put space and I put wrap. And then it should give me back what we had before. So anytime you're using flex flow, then you don't need to put again flex wrap separately and flex direction separately, because The first value here represents flex direction. The second value represents the wrap. So if I don't want wrap, I'll just put in no wrap, and that will take care of it for me. Simple. If I don't want row, I'll just change this row to column. What am I typing? I'll change it to column, and then it will give me. It's as simple as that. All right, guys, at this point, I don't know if we are understanding, if we are following, please let's have a thumbs up that we'll not finish talking before we realize that we have some lapses. If you are following, please let me see. Okay, thank you. I can see that. Then we have, before we go to justify contents, there's something quickly I want to do so that what we are doing here will now look real. It will look real. I'll go to Google. I'll just search for all right, I'll search for this cat picture. Oh, this one, the eyes, they are scary. I don't want that. Get off. Thank you. Okay, I think this looks innocent. So I'll grab this image address. I'll get the image, copy image address. Then I'll come to my CSS, my HTML. Let me zoom in a little bit to see code very well. So what I need to do here is I want to put pictures inside this place so that it will show us. I want to replace all these with pictures. Oh, sorry. So loud down here. So I need to British ing social this. So I will not bother about the alt text yet. I just want to make sure that this is working. Aha, that's good. So let me get this image and just quickly change them. Okay, so now that we have real content, real pictures, you see that the page is messed up. The whole thing is messed up. Sorry guys about this dog, it's really disturbing. So let me put it on the full screen. You see that even on the full screen is really messed up, really messed up. But with the colors, it was easier for us to see how those things work. But we also need to make some other changes, to get these pictures to behave themselves the way they ought to be. So here I will have to style this image differently in order to give us a better display. I'll put it like this, and I'll just target the images and set a width of, I don't know the size of this image. If I save, okay, yeah, I think this has controlled the image sizes so that at least it will be within the frame of the boxes. So like this, we have different images, and up here, don't forget that we are not using semantic HTML here. Our focus is on the styling. I'll use H2 elements, and I'll just call it cards gallery. But I'll have texts up here. Cards gallery, and the parents container will have to style it again. We have to style this parent container to look more attractive. Since we are using flex flow already, then I'll have to delete these ones. While our flex direction, this, that, these ones, I'm going to comment it out. All right. And then so by virtue of this justify content center, it has come to the center. If you set this property on the parent container, it will position whatever that you have as student element to the center, accompanied with align items center. And the height here is 100 view heights. And if you look at it, it is not stretching to fit to contain all the pages. We are going to take care of this. So let me comment this one out so that our background color will cover everywhere. Now, like this, let's use some nice styling to control the padding by adding some padding here. The spacing, I'll add some padding. This ones we already know it. I just want the page to look better. The padding here, let me put something like 20 pixels. All right, so that we have the thing pushed inside a little bit. This is good. Now let us focus on making sure that if I have full screen, this is showing flex wrapped. That is, it's showing row, and the wrap effect is making it to cut down to the next line. But still, don't forget that the whole image is come together. We'll address that. And I want you also to see that the line of code we have written is just very few. We have only a few lines of code with the result that we're having already. So it shows that if you want to design, what is it called? If you want to design responsive page, you need to go for the best option. And this flex box is very nice. Back to this place here. Let me get something from the first page. But on your own, you can already figure it out. From here, anything I'm showing is just to position the items to show very well on the page. That's the only thing that is left for us to do here, because with the help of the display, the flex flow, and justify content, we have gotten the basic structure of the page. Here, they set a background color to the div and then added some margin. That is why it is not gumming each other. That's what I need to point out to us here. And if we want to achieve that on this page, here we have our image. We can decide to add a little margin to this image. Maybe we add something like 10 pixels. Guys, I still see my screen because I don't know what is really going on here. I don't know. My screen is lagging.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So I added 10 pixels of margin to the child container so that to create this spacing like this. And remember, we have equal margin to the left and to the right because of this justified contents that we have on the parents container. If I comment out this, you see that it has gone to the left side. But if I leave it the way it is, if I set justify content to center, then the items will be on the center of the page. So like this is what we have. And if I inspect this page, you see on mobile display, let me make it responsive so that I can drag it. So on a wide screen, this is what it will look like. If the screen is very wide, this is what it will look like. The less, if you continue to reduce it, it will continue to break until you have on a smaller screen of about 584. That's this number, the figure that I have here. You see that it shows you 2 rows. Then once it gets down to a small phone, you see that it will give you 1 line. But then you still have some adjustment to make because on the margins are becoming too much. So it may not be a picture that you are trying to style. It may be a content, a paragraph, or a heading, or whatever. Even a table. The table is by default responsive, but you can decide to control this margin a little bit. But so far, this our gallery, image gallery is responsive, true or true. If it's not true, give me a thumbs up, the one that the thumb is facing down. But if it's true, give me thumbs up. Let me see. Give me thumb down if it is not true. If it is true, give me thumbs up. Our gallery, this picture at this point is responsive. Tim Dindun, it's only you that agreed. Okay, Josephina said yes somewhere. Okay. Thank you, guys. So I'm not alone in this case. All right. Now, let's go back to our code and review some things. The background color, we set it here. The flex property, we declared it on the parent container. We set the flex flow, which I said the flex flow is a combination of flex direction and flex wrap. First value here is the flex direction set to row. Second is flex wrap set to wrap. Justify content, position this to the center. If you don't want it to the center, it has some other properties. Now, align items to the center is what takes whatever you have inside here and put it to the center. These two work together depending the type of content. If it is picture, you may not see the work of this one. I seen it. So if it is picture and I comment out align items, you may not really see it in action. But if it's text, you will see it working with the text. Now this padding is to create this space, outer space around between the parent container and the children container. Now on the children container, we set the background to be red. All right, sorry guys for that breaking transmission. So the background color of the child element is set to red, but the picture is covering it. Display also is set to flex. If I set this display to a different thing, let me set it to block. You will see it will still give us a nice display. Why? Because, but let me do something. Let me do something here. You see, the fact that we set in flex on the parent container and block on the child container is not allowing the full screen, a wide screen, to give us a block display of it. Do you understand? But to be on the safer side, to avoid maybe experiencing some funny behavior, it's good that you use block display here sparingly, only in the cases that you know at every point in time you don't need any form of display other than block. Otherwise, we leave it to flex. These two, height and width, is to set the sizing of our items. Justify content center is there, and then align item center is there. Margin to create this gap between each of the items. So if I comment this out and I comment this out, you see that you are not actually noticing any changes either. But you will notice the changes if you are working with text. What you are seeing here is only pictures. So please don't get me wrong when you see the codes included there. And when you are experimenting it yourself, please don't use only pictures. Include text so that you see all these things playing out. Okay. That is what we have done so far. We had a discussion on somebody posted something on the WhatsApp chat about using only CSS. Okay. Using only CSS for responsive navigation. I agree with that. It's possible. You can use your CSS to create your navigation, but it has some limitations. All right. And we should know that it is good for a static page and for a very small project. If you are working on a good project, you should not use only CSS to create your navbar responsive design. JavaScript has to be included for so many reasons. Chimdindo, you are raising up your hand.
Yes, please. I just wanted you to please go to your HTML file. I want to see where the where you put the image exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the HTML here, this is the HTML file. The images are between each of the child elements. This is the first child element. So I'll collapse it like this. This is child elements. Let me give you full. Okay, this is the child element. This is the open div element, close div tag, open div and close div tag. This is the class name. And if I open it, in between them, you have the image here. This is the image. That's how I pasted it for all of them. So that is where. So you can
Okay.
include other things inside if you so wish. Maybe now here, I put in head 3 and I add something like title and I save. And here you see that the title is, you see, that's why I said when you're experimenting your own, please try and use text as well because it can be very funny. You see what this young man is doing here? The text I added is now coming here. Who can tell me why, please, and how do we solve it? Let it not be as if the text is taking us where we don't know. So in a case like this, let's assume that we want each of the picture to have title or description underneath, something nice like a card. Okay. Now I added my title and the title is going to stay by the side. It's going to stay by the side instead of going to where I want it to be. It is staying by the side. It's simply because, okay, change it where. So simply because here the parent container is saying that it has to be a flexible display, and flexible display is horizontal. So the title is looking for a space after the image. It is looking for a space after the image. But if we change something like this, I change, oh sorry, I will put column table. If I change it like this and I save, you see that where is the text? The text is not going to be found again. Okay, look at it down here. See the text now, it don't come down. Why? Because in the child element, the display property is now set to column, which is no longer horizontal at this point, but it is vertical. We need to inspect this page on different screen sizes to see whether it is behaving the way we want it to behave. When the screen is very wide, you see that the title is here. It is not really positioned where it's supposed to be. If I resize it down to show only one row, you see that the text is hiding somewhere, is no longer visible, and all of that. You see, so this is one of the tricks that comes in when you're using this. What is it called? When you're using this flex box and you're not really putting eye on all of them. Don't capitalize on what we did on image now to say that okay, this simple styling will control everything. No, you have to add extra caution. Exactly. So the flex box is used. I use the flex box to create this, the flex container.